Welcome to April and Debbie Dish the Truth on Weight Loss, where we share the raw, real, and sometimes messy truth about our weight loss journeys.
I am Debbie, a weight loss coach who lost 100 pounds and have been living in maintenance for 4 years.
And I'm April, a weight loss coach, currently down 75 pounds and continuing my journey to lose 100 more.
Together, we'll explore the ups, downs, and everything in between, showing you that lasting weight loss is possible no matter where you are on your path.
Absolutely. And today we're going to talk about FOMO versus your inner voice. So, the fear of missing out versus your inner voice, and why following the crowd can drown out your truth. And the big question is, what if you're not missing out, right? That's what
Right?
we're going to be talking about.
And what if you are not missing out? I think that
Mhm.
is such a powerful question. And I know that I am a woman who has lived her life, honestly, with the fear of missing out, whether it was food, alcohol, people going out, people going on vacations together. You look at Facebook and you see all the things people are doing, and "Oh, why am I not there?" And we
Mhm.
forget to realize that we're not missing out on anything. It's we think we are, but we've got this moment to embrace to do something that feels good, as you say, feels good to us, right? Or to
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
it's a mind switch and a thought switch, and it doesn't happen automatically. It takes practice because we're so used to always feeling like we're missing out. So I'd love to
Mhm.
know something that you have felt you've missed out on, and by not going or doing or something, how it moved you forward to where you are.
Oh goodness, there's so many things. I will choose a food related thing as we do talk about weight loss. And I think it's such a big part of a lot of what we experience when we're trying to change our food habits and eating habits and experiences. And a common denominator is all of us at some point go out with friends, right?
Mm.
Or family or whatever. And you're going to this restaurant and you're thinking, "Oh gosh, well, I'm just gonna have to get this, or I'm gonna have to drink this, or whatever." And this person's gonna say, "Here, try this," or this person's gonna say, "Hey, come on, let's get a drink," or whatever these things are. And you, when you're sitting at home, think, I'm not gonna drink tonight, or I'm not gonna have dessert, or I'm not gonna do this because I wanna focus on this, or whatever you come up with your brain. And then you get to the environment and what we think is caving and saying yes and getting it, and then you walk away with regret and not feeling well, which is kind of what the whole "what if you're not missing out" part comes in. And this is something that I have been learning and relearning and currently working on relearning again, in terms of food specifically, because I have a lot of sensitivities. And it's kind of been a theme my whole life. I've had stomach issues my whole life and all other kinds of health issues. So along my journey, things have come up, but the biggest one that made a largest impact was realizing that I had to or I was choosing to remove gluten from my diet because it literally just turned around my health like so much. It just made such an impact in all the ailments I have. So it was a lot because it's not the easiest thing to navigate as a new person learning it, and then you have people around you questioning and asking and saying, "Well, what can you have?" And you're already feeling like you're taking stuff out out of your world, but you get to a restaurant and removing the food allergies, just talking about the restaurant, and let's just say you're with people and they're all having a drink and they say, "Come on, Lisa," or whoever, "have a drink with us." And you really don't want that drink for whatever reason you have. It doesn't matter what the reason is. You could just really not want to because it might give you a headache or whatever. But you do it because of the fear of missing out on that moment with everybody. I think that comes into play a lot. And what tool really is helpful that I was taught in life and health coach school was the mental rehearsal. And I have really been working on using that and just envisioning the situation and coming up with something that I felt that was true to me that I could say and that I could say more than once and feel good about it, right? And it
Yeah.
came from practicing and thinking about it. So essentially, I tend to say, which is true for me. So I say, my stomach's really not up for it tonight. I'm just going to kind of focus on my meal. Or, it sounds great. Maybe next time. Like, I have little things that I feel good with saying. And it would be helpful for you to sit down and think about, what could I say that would feel truthful to me and get the message across, right? And the drink part for me, especially, I just don't, it's not a big thing for me. So what would be a big thing for me is appetizers. Or if I'm
Oh,
at a restaurant and there's a gluten-free dessert that I've never had, like those kind of things step into my world that I'm like, ooh, am I going to miss out on experiencing this like life-changing dessert that's gluten-free now? And the answer really is no. And I have to think about these things. So a big one, a personal thing that's coming up right now for me is we are going away this weekend and a little getaway. And we go to the same restaurant every year, and it's a Mexican restaurant. And they have Mexican street corn that I love.
yummy.
It does not make me feel great after I eat it. It upsets my stomach a little, and I just don't feel good. But every year I kind of make the exception because it's so delicious and I enjoy it while I'm eating it. But what am I missing out on if I choose not to have it? And this is a question I've been asking myself this week leading up to it, because I told myself, which I don't know if anybody else does this, but you realize like, oh, this is something I should work on. You know what? I'll work on that next time. This time I'll just deal with
Mhm.
it and I'll work on it next time. Next time isn't until next year. So why would I not just deal with it this time? That's what I finally said to myself. I like owned up to my situation and kind of had a talk with myself like, girl, why would you just not deal with it this time? It's happening this weekend. Sometime it's going to be that first time that I have to choose not to have it, or that I want to choose not to have it. So I've been thinking about it this week, mentally rehearsing the situation, picturing myself at the restaurant with my husband. And I was mentally noting, like, what am I really enjoying about having it? Like, first of all, I know what it tastes like. I've had it before. Am I really missing out if I don't experience it again? Not really. If I really sat and thought about it long enough, I could probably, kind of taste it even again. You know how you have that memory, you know what
Yes.
chocolate tastes like, you know what I mean? So I really started questioning, like, what am I really missing out on? I'm still going to be in the restaurant that we both love. I'm still going to have really good choices that will work for me and feel good. So there's really not much that I'm missing out on. So that was a realization that I made for myself. And I think it goes to anybody who might be feeling that way. And I know drinks is a big one because I know, especially when I was younger, that was like a big thing. Come on, have a drink. It's no big deal. Just have one. But it is a big deal if you don't feel good after, right?
Right.
So, what you're missing out on if you say yes is feeling good the next day. You're missing out on having a day with no headache. You're missing out on your stomach not feeling good. Like all those things, I think it's really important to go down that list of, what am I going to miss out on if I have this drink in this moment, or if I have this extra dessert, or whatever it is. So I would really like to hear your experience too with this.
Well, you mention drinks, and when I stopped drinking, just six years gone now, I used to feel that way a lot. Kevin was still drinking for a time after I gave up drinking, and we would go to our favorite bar. And, at the same time that I chose to stop drinking because of an unhealthy relationship, I was also on my journey to losing my weight. And on that journey and still in maintenance, I eat what I want. I'm just aware of how much I'm eating. But I would sit at that, it was a high top, and I would sit there and I would watch everybody having their drinks. I'd watch everybody loading their plates with the nachos and what they're eating. And I had real fear of missing out. And I love what you said about sometime needs to be the first time. And
Mhm.
putting off that first time to change something, like you said, it's next year that you'd be practicing that. Why
Right.
not practice it today or this weekend? And I think that that's what I learned. Like all the things that we are missing out on if we were to give in to our fear of missing out, like you said, and we're missing out on honoring the commitment to ourselves. So, though it was hard to sit there, it was worth it in the end. But in that moment, when people are saying, "Do you want this or have this?" It's like, no. And I do and I don't. And we get to decide, we get to make that choice. And sometimes when we walk away, like, you love that corn. You can taste it. You know what it is. It's your favorite. By not choosing to have that this weekend, the time after dinner when your stomach hurts and you're going through all you're going to have more time to enjoy the freedom of being away from that. And I think in those moments, we're so afraid of missing out that we forget to see what we're actually gaining by giving that up. So mine was definitely the drinking and I and actually all areas of my life. I think I was afraid of everything, like missing out on everything. And when I learned to be present with myself and I'm not missing out on anything that I choose for myself because I'm choosing it for myself, but getting there is it's a work in progress. I mean, I am not always perfect about I look on Facebook and I see things even still and it's like, "Oh," but at least I acknowledge it and just find other things that don't make you feel that way.
Yeah, I think it's great you mentioned you're not always going to be perfect. Nobody is going to be perfect. And I intend on going in this weekend and not ordering it, but if life happens again and I choose to eat something that maybe I don't feel good after, this is where the compassion comes in that we talk about. It was just a choice. You're not good or bad for it. You might be physically paying a price, but it doesn't change who you are or the direction that you're moving. It's not perfection. It's okay, I did this. I realize I don't feel good again. I'll practice it again next time. Also, something that came up in my mind when I was thinking about resolve for everybody in these situations and listening to yourself over the outside crowd that's might be encouraging you to do something else is think of something that you absolutely would never do under any circumstance. So, like skydiving. I'm not going to skydive. I don't care who keeps telling me let's go skydiving. It's not happening. I'm not doing it. But I would have no problem saying no to that a gazillion times.
Mm.
And I don't think anybody would be offended by me saying no to that a gazillion times. They might keep asking me, but I don't think they'd be like, oh, I can't believe you're not going skydive. All right.
It's
So think of something like that that you just would not budge on and put it to the same practice of whatever you're choosing for in the environment that comes into food and your weight loss journey. Have that same resolve for yourself. You can find polite ways to say no, and you're just going to want to keep practicing to say it more and more. And eventually, they will pick up on the cues. Eventually, the questions will stop being so repetitive. They will
Yeah.
pick up on it. It might take some time, but if it's the first time you're saying no and you always say yes, they might not be used to that. And they might just be thinking, oh, she's not sure. She probably does. She just, not saying yes for a reason. So you have to show them, you have to show people, you know, over and over again sometimes, like who you are turning into because they've known you a certain way for so long, right?
It is, I have to say, I think that is probably the most favorite thing that I have ever heard you say, because
Oh,
you would not go skydiving and you would emphatically say no, and you are not going to change your mind. And I love that suggestion on something you would not deviate from. So I think that is so great. And it's hard for people to get to know you as a no person instead of a yes person. I mean, somebody is so used to you saying yes, and no is so hard to say. Well, yes is 3 letters, no is 2 letters. So I think it's like a little bit shorter to say it. And the more you say it, the easier it will become. And it is uncomfortable to say no because I think we have been taught that saying no is disappointing someone else.
mhm.
And sometimes, and a lot of times, when we say yes to somebody else, we're disappointing ourselves because we're not showing up for ourselves the way that we want to. and you and I've talked about this, like mental rehearsal and manifesting things. And I am definitely a person who, some people may say for different reasons, but if I'm going out to eat, I look at the menu ahead of time because I like to see what's on the menu. I like to see, some options that I would want to choose from. And when I see that menu and I commit to what I'm going to eat, because it supports the goals and really what I like to eat. If you offered me a bite of something that I didn't want and I just say yes to make you happy or to make whoever I'm with happy, what am I missing out for me? My commitment to myself that I made when I looked at that menu and said, this is what I want. And it's not about restriction. Like if I said no to you, it's not because I'm restricting myself. It's because I'm honoring the choice that I made before I arrived at the restaurant or arrived at dinner at someone's house. Like I tell myself or I talk to myself about how I want to show up in a day. And if me saying yes to somebody else to make them happy doesn't make me happy, then there's power in the no and it's empowering me.
Mhm. You said so many great things. I love that when you said saying yes to someone else is saying no to yourself, especially in those situations, because you're now telling yourself, no, we're not going to do what we came up with before we came to the restaurant. We're now going to say yes to somebody else's desires. And looking at the menu before and making those choices, that is mental rehearsal. You're looking at it, you're thinking, what is going to feel good to me? What would make me happy to try? And that's what I did with the restaurant that we're going to Saturday. I looked at their menu. What else would I be interested in having that I haven't had before? And trust me, I found a couple things. So the other thing too is when you talked about disappointing someone else, it just brought me back to how you said we weren't taught that. And I don't know about you, but me growing up, my mother was half Italian, my nana was full Italian. And let me tell you something, if they offer you food, you took the food. You did not say no to Nana when she gave you food. And so I definitely was taught as a kid that if you say no to food, you are being rude. You are not appreciating what that person did and cooked for you and all of the things. So it is kind of ingrained in us from a young age if we grew up like that. So you are thinking by saying no to somebody that you are potentially being rude or disrespectful. But I think in life too, especially now, there is so much more awareness of health and living longer and what can we do that, that people are more accepting of that. But if you do have somebody that is around you that does take offense to it, there's ways to navigate that too. And you want to think about ways that you would be comfortable with that. One thing that I started to do is if somebody gives me food that I don't necessarily want, I say thank you and I take it home and I throw it away. They had the act of giving it to me. They had the act of me taking it and saying thank you. They feel good. I feel good. I chose not to eat it when I got home. That
Yep.
my stomach just wasn't up for it, you know? So sometimes you just find ways that you're comfortable with it. If you're that person that can absolutely say, no, thank you, I won't eat it. There have been times I've said that too. It, as you practice it, you find newer ways and you gain more of your own resolve and all of those things. So it's really important to sit down and think about the easiest thing that you could, especially if it's your first time, right? If you're hearing this or you're working on something, it's your first time going to a party or how you're going to, whatever you're showing up for. I'm actually going to work on, Debbie and I are going to work on something to type up that we'll put in either the show notes or our Facebook page that can give you kind of guidelines, like, and maybe some suggestions of what you could say, but eventually feel how you speak. You want it to come from you. You want it to be honest and you want to
Mm,
feel good because then it will be easier to say, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to own that phrase and know that it's yours and you're not using it because somebody else does. And one of the other things that April and I both are losing weight, trusting our bodies and listening and we all want to trust ourselves. And when we make a commitment to ourselves and then we say yes when we want to say no, we're teaching our brain that we don't need to, like every time that we are doing that, it's reinforcing to ourselves, it doesn't matter what we say, we can just change our mind and not support ourselves. And I think the more we practice and the more that we show up saying the no when we want to, I mean, it's truly going to get easier. And our brains are going to be like, this isn't as hard. I can do this. And we'll be able to do it more often. I know the first time that I said no to something, and it was to my younger sister who I love dearly, and, she had invited me to something, and I didn't wanna go, not because I didn't wanna spend time with her, but I had reasons that, and I think this is for you have to like your reasons, and I had reasons that felt good to me, and so I had to say no, and I chose to say no, and I know it was hard for her to hear, but it also gave us an opportunity to have a discussion about what would work better for me and how we could show up better in spending time together that was more quality time. And sometimes saying that no brings about more conversation that will move you forward more than giving in and saying yes just because it's what you should do.
Yes, I agree. It can invite another conversation. And also, then that other person is learning more about you and who you really are. And it does take practice. Like we keep saying,
Mm,
like, this is not second nature to most of us. And we both talked about like finding something that feels natural to you, but also really understand that it might not go smoothly the first few
mm,
times. And even after a couple times of it going smoothly, something else comes up and that one didn't go smoothly because every situation is going to be very different. Every person interaction that you have is going to be different. But really keep in mind that each time you try is a lesson to have for yourself to figure out how to strengthen your own resolve and your own voice, strengthen it, right? And just keep telling yourself, like, I'm practicing, I'm going to learn this, I'm learning this, I'm going to practice, and next time I can try this, next time I can try that. Never just walk away from a situation that you feel like didn't go ideally as a fail. It's definitely not. If you tried and if you tried something new and it didn't go as planned, then that just means you think about what you could adjust for the next time. That's all that happened. Just
mm.
like you have to practice and make mistakes to learn and find your way. I definitely fumbled a lot of times. I still do sometimes, but I'm quicker to see where I stumbled and what I can tweak for next time in situations.
Yeah, and I think remembering too when we do say our no and when we like we have that fear of missing out and we choose to do like, okay, I know I'm going to miss out on this. I know it's going to feel yucky and it's going to bring up all these emotions of just missing out. But next time, remember how it felt to say no and to live through missing out last time. How bad was it? And did you survive? And what did you gain from missing out that moved you forward? And how can that reminder help you be comfortable in missing out on whatever the next thing is?
I think that's great. You said write it down. That will reinforce it. Even if you take like just 2 minutes when you get home or the next day, write down all the positives of saying what happened by saying no and yes to yourself and your choices. And also, the other thing you can take with you, especially in the beginning, flexibility, right? So let's say you're going out with a friend for dinner and you know this friend always wants appetizers, drinks, entrees, dessert. They want it all and you typically share all of it with them. Like you share this, so this is their expectation. And you go, and this is something I've actually put out myself. And I had in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm just going to get an entree or I'm going to have an appetizer or a dessert. Like I'm not going to do all three. That's what I
Mhm.
told myself before I went. So the friend had suggested an appetizer, and I said, "That's great. I'm fine with getting an appetizer, and I know often we get dessert, so I know if I have an appetizer, I'm not gonna have room for dessert too. So would you prefer an appetizer or a dessert tonight?" That's what I said. And there's a choice. So there's flexibility in that. You're not necessarily saying no to any of it. You're just finding a way to balance the choices that you're making. So that's like a step one, right? Give the person you're with options. Like,
Yes.
and if it was a drink and dessert or however you want to say it, but that's a stepping stone in learning like how to say no, how to change the dynamic. Let them, that's also letting them know, like, I'm working on not having the full three anymore. Like, that's just not working for me anymore. I feel way too full. And, without having it be this big thing, like, we can't do anything. I have to have salad. And that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think of all the times that I thought a salad was going to make my weight just magically
right.
disappear. It did not, but you know what? I still eat, we all eat salads because
Well,
salads are
especially if you get it at the
good.
restaurant. The salads are not the salads you make at home when you get them in a restaurant. I swear, they take those lettuce leaves and they dip it in salt, then they dip it in melted butter, then they put it on your plate. I swear. Because if you go onto like a chain restaurant website and you look up their salad nutrition and salt content, it is mind-blowing.
It's
Mind-blowing.
so crazy.
So you think you're making, that's a whole nother episode. You
Right.
think you're making this healthy decision when really you could just say like, could I have a grilled steak or a grilled fish and a baked potato and a veg? And you're way better off than having that salad that they threw everything on. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother episode.
I went to a new local coffee shop in Havasu today and I got avocado toast and it had the hole cut out in the middle and a fried egg put in. It was so
Nice.
good. And they give you the little piece of the little circle that they cut out for your egg. And I took a bite of that and it was just like buttery, amazing
Yes, of
heaven.
course.
So I was excited to have avocado toast because it's, good for you, people say, right? And I think it's just yummy. But then the butter and the toast, kind of like the salad, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but all the butter.
Yeah, yes, it's a step that at home I wouldn't do. So like I would have the toast with the egg and the avocado, but I wouldn't butter my toast. But that's just me. That's how I would do it. But
Yeah.
those are added things at a restaurant that you definitely, it's like you're not thinking of it, they do it, and you're thinking you're making these good choices. And it's just something which is also why it's so helpful to look at the menus before, because it will tell you, and you're going to see that avocado toast and you're going to see 50 grams of fat and you're like, well, where is that coming from? It's coming
Yeah.
from the butter because they're not putting a teaspoon of butter on that toast, that's for sure.
No, they are not. No, no.
So, an occasional indulge when you want to have that too, that's fine too. It's just really know what you want, what is going to feel good to you, and stand by your decision for yourself. And I think that's so, I just go back, I love it. Saying yes to someone else is saying no to yourself. And it goes back to listening to you and really advocating for yourself and your own voice and what feels good to you. And that's really such a powerful message. And I love that you mentioned that.
So good. And I just think, the more we practice it, like I said, and you have said, the more we practice it and the more it will get easier. And
It
the more the less we practice it, it's never going to get easier. It's everything is going to stay status quo. And if you're listening to this podcast, we all want something to change, right? If you're listening, whether it's your weight or a different goal that you're working on, we want change. So practice brings change and be willing to practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more you practice, like you said, whether it's that or something else, you'll also in that act of practicing, you're learning more about yourself. And just like I worked through the gluten thing, and now I wouldn't even think twice about, I told the story to Debbie before we got on the podcast that I went for a Dunkin' Donuts on donut day and they were like, hey, it's a donut day. Do you want a free donut? I mean, donut has all the gluten. And I was like, sure. And I asked for, Kevin's favorite donut. And I got it and I went to work and I put the donut in a baggie and I put it back in the bag and I put it away to bring it home. There wasn't a thought to eat the donut because I know it's not worth it. And then that was really the moment that made me think about like, why do I keep eating corn and dairy when it does not make me feel good? And that's kind of what got the ball rolling that day because it's such a it's just second it's not it's like a what's that second nature to me now. Like I don't think about eating gluten anymore, but I'm always like, "Oh, well maybe it's okay that I have an ice cream today," or so it's very interesting. And again, that's why I said I'm relearning because this is just another layer that I want to work on and reinforce why I'm making these choices for myself, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And as we are getting ready to wrap up, I have not
Yeah.
told April this yet, but so we know that wake up willing or be willing to do something that moves you forward, helps you. You're always about being willing. And I
Mhm.
am not a woman who cooks. That is what I will tell you till I'll tell you till the cows come home. I do not cook.
Mhm.
And this week I heard your voice saying, just be willing, just be willing. Like last week we talked, I was going to be willing to put my sneakers on, which I did, didn't go for a
Mhm.
walk, but they were on. And this week I remembered your message and I was willing to cook this week. And it was, you know what? I'm just going to tell you all the things that it wasn't. I'm going to tell you what it was. I did it. I made my
Yeah.
husband breakfast. I also made him dinner last night. And
Huh.
I was willing to challenge, not challenge, I was willing to see if perhaps I may have been buying into a truth that just wasn't true. So it's the power of being willing. And I thank you for that message every
Oh,
single week because it's so, it sounds so easy to do, but we have to be willing to do it. And I was this week and I made Kevin food and he was happy.
that's great. And what a
Yes.
great thing 'cause you're stepping outside of a comfort zone for yourself. And it's also a level of like being vulnerable because food is such a gift that we give to other people that we cook. So here you're making him something you don't know if it's going to taste good, how he's going to take it, but I'm sure he was super appreciative and just loved the idea that you were doing it, I'm guessing. And I'm sure you felt good that you even tried, right? Of something outside and just being willing to open yourself up to something. And I think that's great.
I did, and I
Awesome.
took pictures, so I'll share them on our
Yeah, I wanna
Facebook.
see.
It's a big deal, right? And I think that's another thing as we are all stepping out of our comfort zones to do different things, to say no when we want to, yes when we want to. Like take the pictures,
Mhm.
write it down, send somebody a text message like this is what I did, because the more we celebrate what we are doing to show up for ourselves, the better it will feel when we do it.
Yeah, I love that. That's 100% right.
Yeah. So I'm excited for next week. We would love to hear what you would like us to talk about, questions, anything that you want to hear us talk about. Reach out to us. April will give you all the information on how to do that.
Yeah, you can send us an email at April and Debbie Dish the Truth at gmail.com, or you can send a message on Facebook. We're always there. That's April and Debbie Dish the Truth as well. We kept it simple.
Kept it simple. So I am going to remind you to bloom big and just let your heart shine. It just do it.
Yeah. And as always, remember to wake up willing to do something that feels good to you.
Have a great day.
Bye.